What's up, Leafs Nation? I'm Zack Phillips, and tonight we're going to be breaking down game number 75 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning here tonight, 4-1, moving to 43-23-9 on the season. We'll break down what exactly went into this loss, how this loss came to be, the thoughts on the performance, the thoughts on the outcome, what this means in the long term, all that kind of stuff. We'll also take calls from people if you do want to call into the show and let me know how you feel. You want to call in, you want to ask questions, you want to give your opinion, whatever it is. If you want to participate in tonight's show, send me a message on Twitter at ZackPhill, ZackPhill, or on Instagram, Zack Phillips _. You send me a message on there, Discord if you have me, whatever the best way is for you to reach me. I'll get you guys the link. You can call into the show here tonight, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on this game, if this is concerning long term, if this is just a one-off, whatever it is for you. We'll get into a lot of what went wrong for this team or why this game ended up kind of having the outcome that it did here tonight throughout the course of tonight's show. We'll also get into our play of the game. We'll get into our grades of the game. We'll discuss the bet that ultimately ends up losing here tonight, unfortunately. But before we get into any of that stuff, the one thing that I've got to put out there, because ultimately I don't think tonight's game is something that I'm going to walk away from and say like, oh, this is end of the world. Sky is falling because of the way the team played and the effort that was put forth on the ice here tonight. I don't think, for me, this is one that I'm going to sit here and overreact to big picture and say, hey, this is it. It's over. You'll never win anything from what happened on the ice. Because I think what we've seen over the last week, 2 weeks, or whatever it's been out of this team where we're having these conversations like the game against the Oilers, the game against the Panthers, at least for 40 minutes, a couple of these games over like the last month even, where we've seen this different identity that's shown up more frequently, that's lasted longer than teams we've seen in the past, where in years past you'd say, hey, that was one great game, nice, but then it just doesn't hold, it doesn't stay, it doesn't have lasting power for this team, because that's not who they are. This has felt like we've started to transition in the right direction, where more often than not, this is the way that they play. So I don't want to freak out on the team here tonight. I don't want to lose my mind about everything that happened too much. We'll obviously break it down and be realistic about everything that happened. And if you do want to call in, again, obviously, please send a message. I'm happy to answer anything you guys have for me. Any questions you guys have, or hear out your thoughts. This is a fan-driven show, so what you guys are saying in the chat, we'll read, we'll answer. What you guys have to say, if you want to message me, we'll answer as well. I got to get something off my chest right away here, because as much as I just gave out all that spiel about the team and how I'm not going to be too concerned about the team in the long term, in the bigger picture of everything that's gone on and how they play and what the identity is and stuff, like as Robert says, they got outplayed, not terrible, but not enough to lose. But enough to lose. Yeah, that's kind of what happened for me there. That's fair, and that's something we'll continue to address as we go throughout tonight's show. The thing that makes me lose my mind, and I say, oh yeah, you know what, I'm not as worried about the play and what happened on the ice and the guys that are here. The thing that I'm constantly worried about, because it feels like there's small changes but just not enough, is the man behind the bench. I still maintain this concern about his ability to beat any fucking coach around the NHL in a head-to-head chess match. The two of them going toe-to-toe, trying to outsmart the other one, because that man seems to, more often than not, step on his own goddamn toes, and the other coach doesn't even have to react to some of the stuff. Like, one of the most common discussions, one of the most common arguments that we are having, or conversations that comes up every single day, whether it's on this show, if it's on Morning Take, if it's on other shows that you're watching on cable or radio, however it is that you're watching this stuff, if you're listening about the Leafs, the most common thing that's happening, the most common thing we keep hearing about is when Mitch Marner is healthy, which seems like it could potentially be healthy, but for Saturday's game, is he going to rejoin the first line? Do you realize how fucking insane that is? Sorry for cussing, but do you realize how insane that is to have that conversation? 31 other teams in the league would be watching that first line right now and say, we can't put him there. 31 other teams. And yet here in Toronto, it's not because, it's Mitch Marner. It's because of the guy behind the bench. And this is the conversation we are still continuing to have at this point in his tenure is, does he have the intelligence to realize what's best for the team? Or is he just so horny about what he's seen work in the past that he's got to go back to that? He cannot get away from this stuff in his own head that it's just has to be this, has to be this, has to be this. Morgan Rielly sits in the press box for 5 games during a suspension. TJ Brodie finally goes over to the left side. Plays with a different partner. Plays like he's in a different role in different minutes and different matchup. He's got a different partner. Everything is different about what he's got going on. And finally, TJ Brodie looks good again. Now, where he's been at over the last little while, not great. I'll admit to that. But we see him 5 games. Wow, TJ Brodie resurrected. The man is back. The man can play hockey again. What happened? Oh, well, maybe it was the change of scenery. Maybe it was the change of pace. Maybe it was a change of matchup. Or maybe it was just not playing with Morgan Rielly. What happens when Morgan Rielly returns? TJ Brodie. Get up there with Morgan Rielly. What are we doing, Sheldon? These are the things that I'm talking about, and this is the conversation we keep having where we're looking at Mitch Marner coming back, and we're saying to ourselves, is Sheldon Keefe smart enough to realize that this first line is A, rocking and shouldn't be broken up, and B, a team that's ready and built for playoffs, a team that actually might be able to create opportunities for Austin Matthews here in this playoffs, in a style of hockey that is way more compact, that is way harder to play against, that is way more tight, hold, clutching, grabbing, slower pace of play, all this different stuff. What we're watching out of that line against teams like Florida, against teams like Tampa, Edmonton, etc., is their ability to open things up for Austin Matthews. Their ability to make his game easier for him to play. Is he going to score every night? Is he going to score a hat trick every night? No, he's not, obviously. And especially in the playoffs. That's not how it's going to work. But what we've seen year after year after year after year is his ability to play just gets completely shut down because his line mate gets shut down as well. And then it's basically just up to him and the guy on the other wing. And it just doesn't work. This is the best chance he's got, and everyone knows that. Where I'm going with this is a decision that was made tonight that was so brain dead. So brain dead. And this is kind of where I'm relating this to. All of that lead up of what I was just talking about, things we've seen in the past, the conversations we're having about this guy, of who's going to play with who's going to be put into different positions and different matchups, whatever, leads to the decision to, for whatever God knows reason, on home ice, when you have last change and you get to pick who on your team goes out when and against who, you put the 4th line against the 1st line on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's correct. You put the 4th line out on the ice against the guy who's competing for the Art Ross, a guy who's competing for the Hart Trophy, Brayden fucking Point. You know, like, you're looking at this against the 1st line of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you said Ryan Reeves, David Kampf, and Connor Dewar. Those are the guys getting it done. You know, they broke down on that play 100%. You want to look at the video, you want to look at the pictures. It's incriminating. Very incriminating for those guys who were out on the ice. They got caught. I'm not going to deny that. They got caught. But you've got the 4th line against the best line on the Tampa Bay Lightning with the guy who's going for the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. You got spaghetti noodles between the ears with a decision like that? Like, what are we doing? These are the things that we all talk about watching over and over and over again with decisions that are made where it's like, why even contemplate, can he outcoach John Cooper? This guy is coaching against himself. John Cooper is basically like, I'm just going to play whoever. That guy over there is going to be the one to fuck up. He probably looked out and thought he was blacking out when he looked out on the ice and saw the fourth line against his best line in the offensive zone, his offensive zone. He probably thought he was hallucinating, seeing things. I thought I was. The best line on the Tampa Bay Lightning. You've got out there against the fourth line. The fourth line. I will put, they deserve some blame. They broke down, and pretty horrendously. Brayden Point was so open. So open. Those guys had to have some idea what the hell was going on. That being said, I'm gonna give this one to like 5% blame on those guys. Maybe I'm being too nice, but like, what are they doing out there? You should not have that happen. Like, at that point, you've got a tight game. You've got an opportunity to make. You've got Austin Matthews get 63. He's fucking buzzing. Like, that's another thing where I'm talking about where it's like, hey, in the playoffs and those guys he's playing with, we say, hey, you know what? Maybe some of his point production gets slowed down, shut down, whatever. However you want to approach it, however you want to kind of say that it happens, but he created chances all night. He just was up against Vasilevsky. He still got himself a goal. Burt, Domi, those guys had chances there as well. So I'm not really concerned, and I think that what happened with that first line, I think that they had a pretty good night for the most part. But it's like 1-1, second period, fourth line. These are decisions that there's no need for that to be made. If it's an icing and John Cooper says, hey, they've got their fourth line, first line, get out there. Fair enough. Fourth line, you dug your own hole here. You fucked yourselves. You got the icing. The other team puts their first line out there. You got to get out of this one because you put yourself in this spot. That's fair. Keefe just chose to do this. He chose to do this. What are we doing? This is what concerns me of the ability to have long-term success with this group, is that there are going to be nights where this team is not going to play that well. Tonight included, right? You don't play that well tonight. And this isn't 100% on Keefe. I've gone real deep on him here and absolutely just taking the torch to him, and maybe a little bit of it is egregious or too far, and if it is, fair enough. You can tell me in the chat. I will listen, I'll read it, I'll answer, whatever. The thing that blows my mind of all of it, though, is like, your coach fucks you as well? What are we doing? Why? Like, why should you have to fight against your own coach? You think on a night that Tampa's not playing well, they've got a battle against John Cooper at the other end there too? Like, you think on a night that Tampa is having a tough game, they're like, oh, wow, we're going up against the other team and our own coach? No. Like, that's just not happening. That's just not happening. Oh, man. That's a bit of a frustrating one. All right, I told you guys we were going to have people call in. I want to hear from fans. I went absolutely off here for the first 14 minutes on mostly coaching. There's a lot more to get into, but we're going to welcome back here to the show a guy who hasn't been able to call in and hasn't called in a little bit. I think the last time you might have called in was on the old channel, so welcoming in, I believe, for the first time ever to the Leafs Nation After Dark show. Longtime friend, longtime listener, longtime caller, longtime messenger. We talk back and forth. My friend, Alex A. Alex, how's it going, brother?
Other than the game, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself, Zack?
Well, I mean, I guess same page. I guess for myself, I'm doing pretty well. I'd like for maybe some more likes in the chat there. If people who are watching haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe here to the channel. Make sure you do all that. But yeah, I mean, kind of the same page. And Alex, I'm going to kick this one off with asking you a question here right away because it rolls over right into one of the super chats that we've got here on the stream right now. So I'll hit the animation and then ask you the question. All right. Another friend of the program, our guy Jeff McKay. Jeff says, Keefe is not an NHL coach. He is at best a good AHL coach. Sorry, his win-loss record is due to the talent. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. Alex, I went off here for maybe 10 minutes to open this show about Keefe and the decision making. And I think that there's a lot of blame that needs to go around to the rest of the team for tonight's game specifically. And I know we're going to get to that, but Jeff bringing up here just Keefe's decision making and his ability to be an NHL coach and accelerate the advance, I guess, excel and advance the success of this team, get them further and further into the playoffs. What do you make of Sheldon Keefe's coaching, the decision making, and do you see this as being a big of an obstacle as I do here when it comes to long-term success?
So to answer that, I do think that's going to be a big obstacle, and I think it's been an obstacle for years, as we've seen in the playoffs, and when it gets to those games that are important, that he gets out coached like tonight. Like I know
Yeah.
we said it wasn't the worst game, but they definitely didn't play as well as they could have. And I think that he gets out coached, like you had said earlier in the stream here. Why are you putting your fourth line out against a guy going for the Art Ross right now? Like, and potential guy up there for the Hart also. Like, it doesn't make sense to me at all. And it's these kind of things that are going to kill us. And like me and you have both expressed on both of your previous channels here that you've been associated with, that we don't understand how Keefe is still there. Like I truly don't. Like, and there's people on Twitter that are like, oh, he's there for the players, all this. Like they say this crap. Like some Leafs fans are really soft. And I sound so bad saying this. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but like, man, like some people just need to open their eyes and like stop being some delusion like about some of the stuff. Like, oh, you got to keep monitoring with Matthews. No, Domi, Bertuzzi are working great with Matthews, and I think that as an example is a great line to go into the playoffs with because you have some grit with Matthews, and it'll make Matthews play bigger. It'll make Matthews play in front of the net. So you got Bertuzzi in front of the net. Like those are skilled guys. Like we're treating them like they're third, fourth liners. Like they're not third, fourth liners. They're great
Yeah.
middle six forwards or top six forwards. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Domi's got talent to pass the puck, and we've seen what Bertuzzi's done since like the All-Star break. He's been amazing. I don't think we've spoken since that really resurgence of Bertuzzi. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And like even the other thing to me is looking at the power play and it's a minute detail, but it's something that frustrates me. And I'm not trying to say that Domi isn't a good enough player or doesn't deserve to be on a first power play or anything like that. But more my thought is Domi what you need on the first power play? I don't think he is. Like look at between him and Tyler Bertuzzi, you've got if he's going to be the guy, if you have one of those guys that you can choose to be just the strictly net front guy, who is it? Like, Alex, am I out of my mind to think that it should be Bertuzzi over Domi?
No, I agree with you. I've been saying this since they tried Bertuzzi. When he was on the power play, he was doing what we're talking about. He was being net front presence, and he was causing havoc or putting in a goal off a tip or just you know what I'm saying. Like he's so good in there. I don't know what it's not hard for the human eye to see this. Like we've seen this over the course of the season when he's been put
Yeah.
more in those situations. He's excelled. So why are you taking those situations away from him? Like tonight, Matthews fed him that puck, and Vasilevsky made that crazy save when Bertuzzi like barely missed the puck. Yeah, it didn't go in. But guess what? You give them more of those opportunities, they're gonna go in. We've seen it happen. So I don't understand how this is rocket science to Keefe. And I can tell you right now, Saturday you're gonna see Marner there. In game one, you're gonna see Marner on the first line. And then we're gonna say, oh well, the third line's not doing much, or it's not as good as it could be. And the first line's, oh, Marner's trying to feed the puck to Matthews, and it's not working because we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And well,
Yeah.
we've seen it all before. So I mean, I'm optimistic because of the kind of team we have. I do like, Domi, Bertuzzi. I feel like Reeves, that locker room presence and the physicality. I've been liking his game a little bit more lately. Obviously, tonight was a tough one for him, but
Yeah.
there's aspects of his team I've liked. It's not a perfect team, but not to go far doesn't necessarily. Not every team's perfect necessarily, but I'm not trying to be too optimistic. But I'm just trying to see the brighter end of this. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also looking at it like I just think that some of these decisions are just overthought. Domi, I know that he's good in that front, or I know he's able to battle there. But if you're going to take a guy who's just going to be strictly standing in front of the net, it's Tyler Bertuzzi to me all the time. Like, it's Tyler Bertuzzi to me all day. That's who I want net front. That's who I want standing there, tipping pucks, getting rebounds, whatever. It's a minute thing, and it's hard to kind of just sit here and continue to harp on, but that's what it comes down to for me there. And I just think you had Bertuzzi. He played on. This is the other thing. It's like, hey, guess what? Who's had more success and been well more respected when it comes to playoff hockey over the last however many years compared to you? That would be the Boston Bruins. And they took Tyler Bertuzzi and put him on the first line, and he excelled. They took Tyler Bertuzzi and they put him on power play 1, and he excelled. Why the fuck can't he figure out how to excel here in Toronto? I'm going to say it doesn't have to do with him. I don't know if it's the players. I don't know if it's the coach. I don't know what the situation is, but now you've all of a sudden got him in a spot with him, Matthews, and Domi, and all of a sudden it works again, right? Some of these things, it's just mind-boggling to me, and I can't understand or wrap my head around how it takes so long for some of these decisions to be made or for these conclusions to come to. Like, makes no sense to me. 20 likes away here from the Smelling Salts. Alex, I want to ask you about Joseph Woll. Are you in the same boat here now that this is Samsonov's net, and like unless he basically gets injured or lets in 10 goals a game for like 3 consecutive games, that this is his net when we get to the playoffs?
Yeah, I can agree. I think Samsonov's. Yeah. I mean, I like Woll, I really do, but he's had it rough since he's came back from the injury. He's had some good games, but I mean, I feel like he's still not 100%. Like, I mean, like he might be health wise, but I still feel like to get in that mojo like he had it earlier in the season. Also, he's a rookie too, so guys, keep that in mind. Like, everybody's kind of harping on the kid. We do this in Toronto a lot where we harp on a goalie too much, especially a young one, and get him out of town here basically. So I would give it to Samsonov, yes. And you have that insurance with Martin Jones right now. We have Martin Jones as a third string. So, like, I feel like that's always good because that's some experience. I'm not saying you roll with Martin Jones game 1, but you have that as a backup option if, worst case scenario, let's say someone gets injured, right? I hope not, but right. I'm just saying. We've seen Sammy go down a couple times, give us some scares the last few weeks here. Who was that against the other night? Was it Buff? No, it was Senate. I don't even know who was the other night. I cannot remember, but he went down, and then we had Martin Jones in net for like the last 5 minutes of the game. I don't know if that was like last week or something. Can't remember, but yeah. So I mean, it's great to have that goalie insurance. So yeah, in my opinion, Samsonov's net, unless like you said, unless he blows like a 10-goal game. That's like real, or a couple of them. That's the only way I can see him losing it.
Yeah, Woll has struggled, and tonight was one of those nights that was a little bit difficult to watch from him because I was very optimistic about Woll. We saw what he did in the playoffs last year. I think he was a guy who stepped in, rose up to the occasion. I can't blame what happened last year in the playoffs on him at all. He filled into that role perfectly, especially as a young guy having to come in and take over that spot. So no complaints there about anything that he did, how he played, how he reacted to stuff at all. It's just, I think that when we're going to look at these guys right now in their careers and where they're at, just at least in this part of the season, it almost feels like Samsonov got rid of all that baggage, maybe is the best way to put it, that he was dealing with, that he had going on to start this year. It seems like it's being let go of, and even when he doesn't have a great game, it still feels like an average game, and then the ceiling is high because he basically can just black out at any given moment. And then on the flip side, we're watching a guy in Joseph Woll who feels like he's lacking a little bit of confidence. 3 out of his last 4 games that we're seeing from this guy, he's let in the first shot of the game. Sheldon Keefe already called him out on it on the second time that it happened. I can't imagine he's going to be happy about this one again here tonight. Although I don't fully blame him, it still is, it's still it's something that you got to take note of. Like, you're coming down, you get one of the first shots of the game that beats you consecutively. It's a bit of a dagger to momentum, to mindset, all that stuff. It doesn't matter what level you're playing at. You watch that first shot go past your goaltender. And then outside of that, I think in some of the other games, he was able to fight back a little bit, and he's not playing terribly throughout the rest of it. But this one tonight, tough one, man. I mean, I watched that Nick Paul goal that scored. First of all, Connor Timmins enters the offensive zone like a chicken with his head cut off. I respect the fact that he's looking at this like, hey, we need a little bit of desperation. We're down in this clock here. There's four something left on the time. I got to go in and make a play. He goes in, misses, falls. Puck's going the other way on a 2-on-1. Morgan Riley's caught a little bit. I think he's got to make a decision. Maybe he needs Wall to communicate. I don't know, but he's got to make a decision because he's caught in no man's land trying to play this 2-on-1. Like 60% on the shot, 40% on the pass. And then all of a sudden I take a look at Joseph Wall and he's backed the hell up into the net and Nick Paul is going far side top corner on him. And it's like, well, there you go. That's the game. Dagger. And I think that was a preventable goal. It's not like it's 100% stoppable by Wall, but it's a preventable goal by him. And it just felt like tonight was a tough one. And when I look at the schedule and now I say 7 games left till game 1, he doesn't really instill confidence in myself, and I can't imagine he's instilling that in much of the rest of the fan base.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think you definitely throughout the rest of the season you play them both. You give Samson a run of games. Obviously, you don't. I don't want to overwork him. I want him to be ready for the playoffs. Let him play though, so he still stays in form. Give Wall some games because you never know if you're going to need him, right? Maybe you can get back into some form. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of momentum to get going, right? Goalie gets hot in the playoffs. You never know. We had Wall, like you said last year. Wall, performed as exceeding expectations. I guess you could say against when he was the situation he's put in, right? So, I mean, there is some optimism, but yeah, like we're both agreeing on. I definitely would start Samson off game 1 as of right now.
All right, let's move off the goaltenders here. I want to ask you some other questions and get some things off my chest as well. One of the comments in the chat, I think, is... I think it's pretty funny, but I think it's almost close to accurate here. We watch Morgan Riley come back into the lineup. Obviously, we're waiting for Joel Edmondson to return from injury here as well and get healthy and kind of slot himself back into this 6. Connor Timmins... He cannot be in this lineup when it comes to the playoffs. Connor Timmins cannot be a guy that's going on a nightly basis, maybe as the 7th guy or the 8th guy, I guess, because you got Gio. You're going to have Liljegren coming back from injury too. Maybe he's the 9th guy in your lineup. He's not one of your 6, and he's not one of the guys I'd look to first. I saw the comment there in the chat, and it was basically said something along the lines of like Timmins looked like Brody. Brody, again, don't think had himself a great night. What do you make of that pairing? What do you make of Brody at this point in the year? How do you handle it? And how do you kind of handle where things are at with the defensive pairings and the groups of 6 that could possibly be put out on the ice?
I'm really glad you asked this because I did want to talk about Brody and the defensive pairings. So, like we talked about earlier with Keith, I myself, as we saw a little bit ago, a week or so ago, we saw Brody get scratched. And personally, with the additions we have, I've liked Edmonton when he played. That game against Edmonton he played was fantastic. He gave Edmonton a hard time. And that's the kind of guy, even on your bottom pairing, that's what you could use. Like I said, I've been impressed with him. He's not doing anything flashy, but he's doing what we need, especially in the playoffs. So, yeah, in regards to the pairings, yeah, I would take what's his name, Timmins out for sure. I'd take Brody out because I think you definitely want to keep Lyubushkin. Riley's gonna be there, obviously. Benoit, McCabe, who else is there? Liljegren's an interesting one too because I think it's just the only thing is sometimes I've noticed, and I think we can agree on this, in those games like against Boston, he plays like so bad. And I don't know if it's the physicality that gets to him or what it is, but like that Boston game, the last one we played, I remember Liljegren just he did not have a good game at all. And I mean, I'm very optimistic with him. I do like him as a player, but when it comes to those games, like we need guys that are going to do something in those kind of games. Like I don't care in the 82 games you're gonna be a pretty solid guy, and then you come into a game against a team that's tough like Florida or Boston, and you're looking scared out there. You're not gonna just do your job. It's so compared to someone like Edmondson. I know he's a left shot, so it's a little bit different, but Edmondson's going to go and clear the net, hit people. He's going to just play defense. Like, he's not a flashy guy. He's not an elite puck mover. Don't get me wrong, but he's going to do what you need in the playoffs because it's a tighter game. So, I mean, I'd hope it's Riley. There's Labushkin, McCabe, Benoit, Edmondson, and then who's the other one? And I said maybe, and then Liljegren. I'd do that, and I'd scratch Brody. But I do not see Keefe doing that. And I know they want to probably respect the veteran, but fuck respecting the veteran at this point, man. Like the guy's like, I feel bad for the guy because what happened with his dad earlier in the year. All the best to him, but like, man, like this, it's business. We want to win a Stanley Cup here or try and go on a run, right? So, no hard feelings, but man, like we're trying to win. Like it'd be a scratch, but I don't know if I doubt Keefe's gonna do it. I don't know what you think, but that's my opinion there.
No, I don't think he's gonna do it. I really don't think he's gonna do it. I feel like this guy gets way too attached to the idea of a name, a contract, a career, a reputation, and he just can't let go of it. He refuses to take away minutes, time, space, or not space, time on ice. Like, take these guys out of the lineup. Like, he just won't do it. Won't punish or hand out consequences because he looks at them like that. Like, I think Brody was solid when he first got here to this team, and now over the last 2 years, basically for me, he's pretty much been in a position that I continue to look at as being consistently not good. Every now and then he hops up and he has a decent game or a game where he stands out as in a positive light. For the most part, he's just been a below average. And then, outside of that, if you're going to look on the tiers, it's like this much of his time he's spent as being pretty good. And then this much of his time he's spent as being not good. And below that, there's a solid chunk still of him spent being very, very poor. It's tough. It's tough for him right now. I just don't know necessarily kind of how you handle things when Brody and Edmondson come back. I think Edmondson has to be in. That would kind of, to me, push out, because you're going to have Riley, you're going to have Labushkin, you're going to have McCabe. I want Benoit in this, especially for the playoffs. I want Edmondson, especially for the playoffs. And on top of the playoffs, I'm talking Boston, I'm talking Florida, Tampa, if you get there. Those are guys who are just going to bully the hell out of people, and those are guys you want in your lineup. Liljegren concerns me, but I think if you're going to have him in, it's going to be Brody who's got to come out, and he goes down onto the third pair. Outside of that, not taking Benoit out and putting Liljegren in, that guy's a liability. Doesn't work for me. So that's kind of how I shape things up from that standpoint. Also, just quick note for people, as far as if you're joining for the first time, if you're new to my channel, if you're new to what's going on here on the stream, whatever, this is a fan-driven show, guys. This is a fan-driven show. What you guys say in the chat, I try to read. I put up polls, and we're willing to take calls. You want to talk to me about what you think about the game, you get in here on the stream, you send me a message on Twitter, Instagram, however you want to send a message, send it on Discord. I'm happy to have people call in and give their opinions. We get to have really cool people, like the people from Leafs Nation. We had our guy Shane Sini. We were going to have Alex Hobson at some point. We had Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill. They're going to be coming through more frequently. Carter Hutton, these are people who will continue to come onto the After Dark show, but then we're also going to have our friends of the program, our guy RJWI Rob. We're going to have Joe Hill. We're going to have Alex call in here more frequently. We're going to have Gord's Corner. This is stuff that we continue to have, and it'll keep going into the playoffs. But if you're new, we do have a caller on the line right now. No, he didn't play professional hockey. No, Alex isn't an analyst, but he's a fan just like all of you in the chat here, and more than welcome to call in at any time. So, Alex, again, very thankful to have you on here. And another quick note. I see people there talking about people wanted merch. Any channel I've been on, merch. Where you got merch? Look, it's not personal to me. It doesn't say my name on it or anything, but you want merch, you got merch, and right now we got Merch Madness. If you want to head on over and pick yourself up some merch, Take a look at the shirt that I'm wearing. The Leafs Nation, nice logo, clean shirt, comfortable shirt. Looks nice, looks good, feels good. I feel like it's something, I could perform well in no matter what it is that I'm doing. Post-game shows, go to the gym. If you're walking to the grocery store, I'm going to put on a clinic no matter what's happening. I got hoodies here, Leafs Nation hoodies. And on top of that, I don't know if people can see the clean Leafs Nation. I think these ones are called the dad hats, but the Leafs Nation dad hats. Head on over Merch Madness. The link is pinned in the chat there, so make sure to check that out. But we'll get some stuff cleaned up as we go here on the stream. We'll try to make sure everything flows. Color labels and stuff on the screen. I know some of it's a little janky, but that's kind of what I've got going on. So no matter where you're listening, watching, I appreciate you. Let's get ourselves to 50 likes here as well. All right. Couple other things here. This one is not as concerning to me long term, but if we're going to talk about this in an isolated incident about this game tonight, like Alex, you and I, we're going to look at this one in a vacuum. We're just looking at tonight's game, and then maybe we start branching out a little bit. I think the second line was decent in the first period. I think that they made some impactful plays. I think William Nylander was engaged. I think that I saw him finishing checks. Like I saw him kind of involved in the play, involved in some of the physicality. It disappeared for me in period 2, and then it was actually the opposite where it was like, hey, this guy's struggling in the late second period and into the third period. I think he had himself a rough, Nylander specifically had himself a rough game. In the first, there are a couple power play opportunities. JT's missing the net from point blank. What did you make of those guys' games? And when you take the example of what this game was here tonight against Tampa, a team that's kind of surging late here, heading into the playoffs, they play a playoff style of hockey, and they were able to basically shut down that second line. What do you have any big takeaways for that? Does it concern you moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a point of concern in regards about, the second line. I think I can agree with you. Like the first period, they looked involved, and then throughout the rest of the game, they just didn't have the best of times, honestly. And I think like what's surprising to me is when you look, I was looking at like some stats they showed on Twitter earlier this morning, and that both Matthews and Nylander have been very solid against Tampa the last, I think, like 10 games, or their last 10 games played against them. So I'm kind of shocked that Nylander kind of had that game. I mean, obviously, players have bad games, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I would have hoped for Nylander to stepped up more. We only had one goal in this game, right? Like, the only goal was that Matthews goal in the power play at the end of the first period, and then we just didn't really... We had a couple chances, and that was really it. So, I mean, yeah, it's a point of concern. I do like McMahon on that line. I do, but I don't know if he's gonna roll with that. Like, I'm curious to see what happens when Marner comes back. That's more what I'm really interested to see, because depends who else is on that line with JT and Nylander, right? Or if they're gonna keep that like that, which I'm gonna assume so. But there's so many different little things they can do. So, I mean, to me, is a point of concern, but I mean, let's see how it goes throughout the next couple of games. But yeah, definitely not a great game from that line for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not necessarily as concerned. One of the reasons being that for me, William Nylander is a guy who shows up in the playoffs, in my opinion. I think he's lacked some of the physicality before, and that's fair. And I think we've also still had some of the same criticisms that he can kind of take a nap during a game, I guess is maybe the best way to put it, where you're like, oh, well, where did he go for that second period? Where did he go to start the first 10 minutes of the third? Now all of a sudden he's buzzing in the late third period, but he has been the most consistent of any of those other three big four in terms of Tavares, Matthews, and Marner for ability to turn it on and take over. So I'm not as worried about him. JT, I am a little bit, but more of my concern with JT would just come as if he's still going to play with William Nylander, because I don't see those guys as being an ideal pairing. I've not really ever liked them that much or loved them that much. I think one of the big issues that we've always had when it's come to the lines and how you're going to sort these guys out is that if it's not Nylander with Tavares, then it had to be Marner. So then now you're putting Nylander up with Matthews, and we saw a different dynamic there that Keefe very clearly didn't like. So now he doesn't like that. So now he's switching them back, and then there was no other options. Now you've got options here, Sheldon. Maybe too many for him because he'll just fucking throw on the blender and forget that he left it running and smoke's in the kitchen all of a sudden. But I mean, you've got options. You can put Marner up onto the first line if you need to. You can load Willie up there if you need to stack lines. Like, you can do all that. But I think what you do is I'm not concerned about Willie because I think he will show up in the playoffs. I throw him down onto the third line, and I put him with other guys like Yarncroke when he comes back and Matthew Nyes. I keep Bobby McMahon onto that second line. I leave JT, and then I don't worry about JT if Mitch Marner's on his wing. And then that solves a lot of concerns for me. Chris Arsenault in the chat there saying 88 was asleep tonight. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't really have any problems with that statement. I was not really impressed with his game. I thought the first period, I was like, hey, he's here. He's in it. It's not like he's dominating, but he's in it. And then it was like, fourth line on for a goal against. See you later. Like, this one's not for me. I'm like, well, Willie, fuck. You can't really do that there, brother. So that was a wee bit concerning to watch him just say, forget it, I'm out of here. But, I mean, we'll figure it out, I guess. Right now, the poll that we've got up in the chat, I have, do you keep Bertuzzi, Matthews, and Domi together when Marner returns? 52% of people voting saying yes, absolutely. 23% saying start like that, but short leash, and 25% of people saying nope, but put Marner back. So if you haven't already, you can go vote in the poll there. You'll see it up. You can click the link to go get merch as well. Alex, I've asked you a bunch of questions. I had a lot of stuff that was on my mind. I got most of it out of the way here so far. There's stuff I'll still get to, of course, but I want to kind of put the ball in your court now. Is there anything that you were watching during this game and you're like, if I get the opportunity to go on Leafs Nation After Dark tonight, I got to bring this up. I got to talk about this thing that happened. Like, is there any of that for you?
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff already about the game. I'm just trying to think, like, we talked about, like, the goaltending. What do you actually, I'll ask you, because we talked about it briefly earlier, but maybe talk a little more in depth. So what do you think about, like, a Riley's game tonight, in your opinion? Like, how'd you feel about it? Like, since it was his first game back from injury, we beat Florida last game, and, he comes back and we lose. So what do you think? I'm not putting all the blame on him. I'm curious to see what you think for a first game back, as it kind of seems like a trend when he comes back from injury or suspension that we lose. So I don't know, it just could be coincidence, but I'm just curious what you think.
I don't think he played that great. I don't think he's the reason that we lost. I will clarify that as well. I don't think he's the reason that this team lost this game here tonight. But I don't think he was very good. I think that there's probably some growing pains between him and Lyubushkin, because if you remember, I believe before Riley went out, Lyubushkin had gone out with something as well. And so now it's just kind of this whole disjointed gong show that we're experiencing. It was just a back and forth clusterfuck of his game tonight, where there was moments that looked really good, and then there was moments that I was going like, does that guy remember he's the defenseman on the ice? You're watching him out there and in with the fourth line, and he's below the other team's hash marks. I'm going, dude. The other thing that I would say is, I do think he's probably one of the driving forces of leadership on this team. I know people have had some pretty big beefs with John Tavares, his leadership ability, and I think it's just because we don't see him in the room. We don't know what he's like outside of it, and it's a fair criticism if that's kind of the only way that you get to see him play, or you get to see his leadership abilities. You're going to say, no, that's not there. Morgan Riley is very clearly a vocal and a physical leader based on his on-ice play and how he leads from that standpoint. in a game like this is very much a team that you have to go out and play like you do against Florida, like you do against Edmonton, or like you did against Florida, like you did against Edmonton, where you were the aggressor. We had Rosie on and we were talking about the fact that we see this team where it was a transition, right? It was they get punched in the face and then they just cower and whimper away and say, don't hit me, to a transition where it was like we get punched in the face and we've got some guys who will punch you back. Not everyone, obviously, but some guys. And then now we've transitioned to like, hey, we've got a fuck ton of our team who just goes out there and just punches you in the face first. This is a game you got to do that. Like, this is a game against the Tampa Bay Lightning team where, you know what, Alex, truthfully, I don't want to play Tampa in the first round, and it doesn't have anything to do with like whether or not I think we could beat them. It's because I don't want to see a bunch of fucking pissy whiners for 7 games. Like, as frustrating as it is to play against Boston, as frustrating as it is to play against Florida, you don't have the best player on the other team fake punching the referee because he's upset that his stick got touched on a breakaway. Like, all they do is cry and whine and fucking complain for 60 minutes every single time they go out on the ice. It's just an absolute whine fest from those guys out there. They've done it for a long time. It's not because of the refs that this Leafs team lost again here tonight. Let's not blame that. But let's also understand what happened is they get granted a lot of opportunities because it's John Cooper is a world-class head coach who's very, very, very intelligent when it comes to game strategy and game management and referee management. But then on top of that, it's just cry, 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 cry. And these refs just fold into some of the star players on Tampa where they just whine the entire time. You know what you're going to get when you go out there and you play physical and you take it to them is that they don't get pissy at the refs. They get pissy at you. They turn around and they slash you in the knees. They slash you in the arms. They cross-check you. They go out there and like Hagel did to Matthews, they kick you in the back of the legs because they are fucking soft as baby shit when it comes to some of that stuff. And they won't play back like Florida or Boston does where they're going to turn and punch you in the mouth. They'll turn back and stick you in the back of the legs, which it's fine because that's obviously a good, like that can excel on the playoffs too, but it's something that can be beneficial to you when you're this Leafs team who is supposed to be really good on the power play. You get where I'm going at with this, where it's like you go out there and you take it to them from the first shift. Ryan Reeves-esque. You know what happens? Tampa's taking penalties. That's how this started, and then all of a sudden the Leafs just took it off the gas when it came to lines 1, 2, and 3, and then it was like the only other people out there was line 4 that were going to be bringing that energy, that intensity, that atmosphere. So why do you not show up here tonight? And I think some of that, if not a lot of it, has to come from Morgan Rielly. And you want to be a leader, you want to be a guy to drag guys into the fight, you got to do that. Because, Alex, again, I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent here, but when you watch the Colorado Avalanche, if you watch that team lacking energy, you know who the first guy is on that team who's going to be bringing it? It's not some guy on the fourth line. It's Nathan MacKinnon. It's Nathan MacKinnon stealing a guy's helmet and fucking throwing it at him in the corner. It's Nathan MacKinnon running over a guy in the neutral zone and standing over him, flexing at him because he's saying, F you, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm tougher than you, and I'm going to take it to you. And I'm going to take it to you, and I'm going to take it to every goddamn guy on your team. And those guys bring that intensity, and he says, get on my back. I'm the best player on this team. I'm one of the top 3 players in this league, and I'm going to dummy the hell out of other people. You don't really have that here in Toronto from some of these guys. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, they'll never do it. So if you want a leader on this team to do it, obviously you get those contributions from Edmondson, McCabe, McMahon, Holmberg, name your guys. They'll do it lower down, but you want a big boy to do it, it's got to be Morgan Rielly. He's going to be the one who has to be called upon. And I felt like tonight was a game that you needed it and could have used it, and you didn't have it from him. And if he wanted to turn this one around, or someone wanted to, it could have come from him stepping up. And it doesn't even have to be killing a guy, Alex. It could be he goes to the front of the net and Steven Stamkos comes in and he slashes him in the knee. They're never going to call that, and they don't call it the other way. So we've seen it in these other games. Why can't you do that?
No,
Why
I
can't you
agree.
do that? I felt like
I
that was
agree.
lacking from him. Obviously, some of the play is missing a little bit, but there's going to be a little bit of rust. He missed some time. It's trying to get back into speed. That's fine. But I want the other aspects. If you're missing A and B, bring C, bring the intensity, bring a little bit of snot.
Exactly. No, for real. I find it weird because the game against Florida, like the last game we played, sure it got close at the end there, don't get me wrong, but the game we played was more like a play style, Jesus. Playoff game. When you watch, like as example, when Holmberg got laid out, I forget who he got laid out by, but anyways, and then he caught a Nyes going right in for him right after. Did Nyes beat the brakes off the guy? No. But he
Jumps
grabbed the
in.
guy. He just jumped. Like it wasn't anything crazy. And I think we got a power play off that too, if I'm right. So like it's nothing crazy. Just you go from a game, you look at that like, okay, the game got close, but
No, we had
we
a
showed some
penalty kill off
intensity.
the Nyes one. Sorry, Alex. We had a
Oh, it
penalty
was a
kill off
penalty
the
kill?
Nyes one. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
But it was
remembering wrong.
good.
But anyways, yeah, but it was good. I was happy to see it. A rookie having to step up like that should kind of show the big guys like, yo, like this is how we should be playing. Like this is playoff
Yeah,
hockey. So anyways, like what he did was great. And then we go to this game and it's like, where was it? The only guy
yeah,
like just seen Reeves laying out guys, which sure it's what you expect with Ryan Reeves, but where's the intensity on the rest of you? Like Ryan Reeves isn't gonna go pot you 2 goals or put up 5 points like tonight. Like the guys
yeah,
the guys like Nathan McKinnon in the league, like those are the guys that show up and yeah, Nathan McKinnon's not going beating the brakes off guys, but he's going and just showing that he's determined, the determination, the willingness to go into the dirty areas to actually want to win and to perform and to just intimidate. Like when you see a guy like Nathan McKinnon getting pissed off, like you're looking at Nathan McKinnon like holy shit, like this guy wants to win, man.
yeah,
Like if you're on the other team and you're seeing this guy like you were saying towering over you and he's like pissed off or he just laid a hit or something, like he's like I'm gonna score or like he's like I'm gonna do something. It's intimidating because he's that good of a player. When you have a guy like
yeah,
when you see Ryan Reeves doing that, sure it's intimidating a little bit, but you're not gonna think he's gonna go through 2 guys and score a goal. Like it's a difference, right? So I'm not trying to take too much from this game, like we both kind of said. There's some things we took away, but hopefully Riley can bring that intensity as we know he can. He can get into those, bring up the pace and like you said, maybe it's because it's first game easing back into it. Sure. So I mean, we got time till the playoffs, some games. Riley usually plays better in the playoffs, I will say. So hopefully that's the case this year too, because last year he played, I think, amazing with Shen. So hopefully maybe he can
yeah. I
bring that with
agree.
Babushkin. So let's be hopeful with that, and hopefully Riley can, you know, bring some cross checks back. But anyways,
All right, Alex. Well, I will get you out of here on that. I appreciate you taking the time to do this here. I appreciate you calling into the show. Anyone else who ever wants to call in is welcome, as well as always. Here, I'm happy to have people. I'm happy to hear people's opinions and what their thoughts are on the game as well. So, never feel afraid or shy to reach out or anything like that. But Alex, thank you very much. Before I get you out of here, you know what? We'll bring it back. I think maybe it's important to do here. We've always done one final thing before you go. So whether it's something you want to say to the chat, if it's just positive vibes, or if it's a prediction that you've got, what do you have? One final thing before you leave. Give it to me.
uh, okay. Who's our next game against? I'm just trying to remember. I don't even remember who we're versing
Okay.
next.
Saturday, Montreal.
Yeah.
Monday, Pittsburgh. Tuesday, New Jersey. Thursday, New Jersey. Saturday, Detroit. And then I believe Tuesday, Wednesday, we go Tampa, Florida, or in reverse, but Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are the next games. So Montreal next.
Okay, yeah, Montreal next. I knew we played Saturday against Montreal. I just remember if there was a game between then and there. So, anyways, I
Yeah.
think so. Marner should be back the game if we're assuming he's back. I'm gonna assume he's gonna be put on the first line, but we will see. We don't know how Sheldon's brain operates at times. I'm gonna predict he goes on the first line with Matthews. I don't know who's gonna be their line mate. If they're gonna put Nyes back there, I doubt it. Maybe they try Bertuzzi. My prediction is Matthews loves cooking the Habs, so I'm gonna predict Matthews is gonna score 3 goals. He's gonna score a hat trick against the Habs, and Marner's gonna put up, I think, let's say 3 points, and he'll get 2 assists and 1 goal. I think Marner's gonna come back hopefully hot. I'm being a little optimistic with this, but that's what I should expect from Marner, especially against the Habs. Like, come on. So yeah, I'm expecting Matthews hat trick and Marner to get 3 points with 1 goal. So and I think we'll win. Let's say 5-2. That's my prediction.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time to do this here, Alex. Thanks again for calling in, and happy to have you back anytime.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Zach. I'll definitely be calling back in. Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. Alex A calling into the show here tonight to give us his thoughts. As I've said, guys, anytime anybody wants to call in, you guys send me a message. We're going to continue to have some amazing people across Leafs Nation Network joining into the show, giving their thoughts, giving their post-game reactions. We'll have it from the Nation Network here as well, calling in from maybe different teams, but this is a fan-driven show. It always has been. It always will be. You want to call in. You want to give me your thoughts. You send me a message. I'll get you guys a link. You call in. You let me know how you're feeling about the game. I think a lot of what my thoughts were on tonight's game have been said. We discussed. Talked about Wall. Talked about the defense. I talked about coaching, how that's a bigger concern for myself. I did see a quote out here tonight from, I believe it was Mark Masters. He had tweeted it out. And he was just talking about Reeves and Matthews, what they were saying about what happened when... yeah. You know what? Let me do this and then I'll get into it. We got 50 likes, so thank you everyone who liked the stream tonight. We got the smelling salt, so you have to do it. It is what it is. Holy. All right. I feel like I made you guys wait too long, so I wanted to give a little extra on this. The eyes are watering. The nose is dying right now. All right. There you go. Okay. The game. Ryan Reeves. Third period. Reeves talking about we got to learn to come out hotter in the third period. I think that's kind of been lacking a little bit. Like, this is not on Reeves. Do you know how frustrating it is to hear this guy who's like a veteran player coming to this team after game 75, in case you forgot, 75, who says we have to learn to come out hotter in the third period? You couldn't have learned through the 8 years. 8 years, you couldn't have learned that you need to come out ready to play in the third period. Like, this isn't on Reeves. And if you want to blame this on Reeves and be like, oh, how didn't he learn? You know who the person was that came out and said, oh, I got to get things going? 3 minutes and 10 seconds into the third period, this guy looked around and went, these guys are fucking sleeping. These guys need smelling salts more than Zack at 50 likes, more than Zack at 100 likes. He said, these guys are asleep right now. So he goes out there and beats the brakes off of Tanner Jeannot. The guy has to leave the game because of what Ryan Reeves did to him. And it's like this guy's taking the second to be like, our team is asleep. Our team is not showing up here. I've got to wake them up. And then they still don't. Like, it takes a while for them to get going. Nothing really happens. And then you lose 4-1. Matthews, we dug ourselves in a bit of a hole and couldn't really climb out of it, especially in the third. I thought we were pretty flat. Unacceptable, man. Unacceptable, you know? It's just you're too far into the learning curve. Like, I get it if it's just random games or whatever. And I know at this point, a lot of these guys are probably just looking at the playoffs and want to stay healthy. They're not too concerned about some of the stuff. But again, it's just learn. Like, you want to learn again. We're still learning lessons. It's game 74, and we're trying to figure out how to be ready to go in the third period. Like, what? You're at home, man. Figure it out. That pisses me off. That stuff bothers me. I don't want to get into the refs. Like, this was not like a lopsided thing at all, but do the refs think people are paying to go see them? Like, these heroes are just blowing the whistle on the stupidest stuff either way. Like, they're not. These guys stink. NHL refs are goddamn awful. They need to figure that shit out. Sad state of affairs. Like, I don't get it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had for tonight's game in terms of what I saw there. I got to bring this up. We lost it, and I'm not ashamed to admit it ever. I'm not ashamed to talk about what went on or what went wrong. We had Austin Matthews over 1.5 points. He was 2 away from 100. He came into this one at 98. And you know what? Based on the way the game played out, obviously the result would indicate otherwise, but based on the way the game played out, Matthews, I think, that was a good bet. I think Matthews over 1.5. This guy was buzzing tonight. He had insane amount of shot attempts, not shots on goal. There was so many blocked shots against him. Matthews ends up leaving tonight's game with 6 shots on goal. I believe he probably had about 15 shot attempts. The amount of blocked shots that took place, the amount of sticks that were getting in place, just because these guys were going crazy trying to defend him, and he still gets off 6, still gets off some incredible opportunities. For me, like, you could sit here and say, oh, well, Matthews kind of got slowed down. He got shut down a little bit, but I don't view it that way. When you talk about playoff games, we're looking at games that are going to be 2-1, 3-2, 4-2. You know, it's mostly these 2-0, 3-0, like these tighter, low-scoring games. You can't go out there and just bank on Matthews to score 2, 3, 4 goals a night in order for you to be winning games and winning series. Like, no. That's not acceptable. You need Nylander, Tavares to step up. You're going to need some of that depth to have some type of impact on the game. Nick Robertson, I thought, was not very good here tonight. Like, you need those guys to make some type of impact. I don't want to just be looking at Matthews every time. So, Bet99, you got the better of me this time. I'm coming back with a vengeance for Saturday. I've got some thoughts. I'm going to need to look at the lines. I'm going to need to look at the bets, the odds, everything like that. But I've got some ideas of where I'm going to be looking, how I'm going to be wanting to approach this game. Saturday morning, right here on the channel, another game preview is going to come out. You're going to want to see it because I'm going to have some best bets. And Bet99, you guys better be ready. You guys better be ready because I'm coming for you on Saturday. You got me tonight. We're still up slightly. I think we just had half a unit here tonight. We were up 1.1 units on you. So, 0.6 units. We're still up on the season. I'm coming for you. We're going to dial in here on Saturday, and we're going to make this count. I appreciate you. I enjoy betting at your sports book, but I want to take money from you. I don't want this going back into your pockets. Like, that's great. We love you and hope you do well, but not from me. I want to take money from you. I want to take money from you. That one loses. Austin Matthews over 1.5 points here tonight. Plus 125 at Bet99, half unit. We're going to go to 4-10 on the year. We're still up 0.6 units. We still got a positive ROI. But yeah, we lose this one here. If you're going to be betting anywhere at all, I think you guys should be betting at Bet99 Sportsbook. It's your local Canadian sportsbook and online casino built by Canadians for Canadians. Top-tier customer service, fast payouts, and smooth transactions. Bet99 should be your choice of sportsbook. Make sure to head on over there. You must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Available to persons in Ontario only. So check them out. But you know what? Bet99. Kudos to you tonight. Stops here. We're going to win some bets coming up. Just get ready. Just get ready. You're going to see a wave of winning bets come through, and it's going to be from us, the Leaf Station After Dark crew. All right, couple more things before we can get out of here. Let's get to our play of the game. Play of the game. Let's get to this. I think the play of the game has... I kind of want to give it to the Reeves fight, but I think I'm going to give it to Matthews 63. Look, he passed his career high when he got 61, then he got 62. It felt like he might have walked out of the rink tonight with 65. Like, I'm watching that game in real time going, man, he might score 3 tonight. He might make this happen. This guy could be the entire reason that this Leafs team is in it at all here. He was all over the ice. He was just going head-to-head with Vasilevsky for a lot of it. They were having to do anything and everything they could to try to stop him from shooting, getting pucks on net, and he still managed to get 6 shots. If you were looking at betting lines, I believe he was like 4.5 before the game, so clears that for people. He's a menace, man. And 63 on the hunt for 70. kudos to him for that goal. And it snaps this drought for him on power play goals. It snaps the drought for the team on power play goals. Gets that one done, alleviates things a little bit, and it was kind of cool because it was just mano-a-mano, him versus Vasilevsky, opens up and just rips a one-timer, beats him under the blocker, obviously hits the side of the blocker, and then bounces off him and in, but regardless, that's my play of the game. Honorary mentions, 2, and they're going to the same guy. 1, Ryan Reaves, the fight in the third period, looks around, acknowledges, these guys on my team, they're sleeping. This is a joke. We can't be doing this against the Tampa Bay Lightning at home when we're 4 points back of the Florida Panthers trying to take home ice going into the playoffs. Can't do that. So he goes out there and beats the absolute wheels off Tanner Jeannot. Unfortunately, the team doesn't actually respond the way that they should have. Then, the other one, which actually happened way earlier, but bass backwards by myself. I apologize. Earlier in the game, Ryan Reaves goes in, levels Matt Dumba. I think he leveled Dumba again. Then he levels Hedman. Like, the guy was a human bowling ball. But the thing that I agree with 100% with what Rosie was saying when he came on here the other day was he's smart about it. He picks his spots. He's not getting out of position. He's not doing these things and ruining the offensive flow of the game. He's not ruining things for his team where he's hanging them out to dry so that he's out from a defensive perspective. He's getting caught. Like, he doesn't do that. He's pretty smart. He knows when and what to do. And he came out with intensity right away to start this game. Kudos to him, man, and kudos to him what he did in the third period as well. I think that fourth line, had a great first period. I think Sheldon Keefe completely fucked them over with that decision to leave them out against the first line in the second period. That's on Keefe, man. Don't do that. Those guys had an incredible first. I don't care how much confidence you have in them. Grow up and have some brains. That's not the decision to make there. And then I think that they played decently well the rest of the way. Not as impactful maybe, but I think they still played pretty well. Reaves even draws another penalty later on. Like, good on the guy, man. I think he's been playing well, and I think he deserves a mention here tonight. We do have another super chat. Super chat here from our guy Dan Freeman. Dan, I really appreciate the super chat. As always, I will never ask people for super chats, but we do appreciate them here on the channel. So thank you very much. As we've said, I try to read the chat. I try to read what you guys are saying, what your thoughts are, like all that. But if you send super chats, I will read them no matter what. I apologize. It took a little bit longer to get to this one, but I wanted to get to it. Dan says, Willie said he likes the left side in the past. What do you think about Willie, JT, Marner, line 2, and keeping Matty line together? Opens up the one-timer from Nylander. Truthfully, I don't like it that much. I would much rather have them separated so that you have 3 lines of attack, and then the 4th line you keep together with basically what you have now. I'd probably go Kampf, Dewar, and Reaves. If you need to move guys out or matchup dependence, whatever it is, then that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But the 4th line as is. The 3rd line, I put one of Nylander or Marner, and then whoever you don't put on the 3rd line, I put on the 2nd. And then Dan, the way I would handle it is that as you go into the game, later in the game, as you get more desperation, if you need to change things situationally, then you can mush them together. Then you go, that 1st line stays, and you elevate Willie to the 2nd line, but I don't just put them there to out the jump. I just it feels too much to me to try to do through 60-minute game. You want to have diversity in your lineup. You want to have depth and be hard to play against from 1 through 4. You don't want 1 and 2 and then the rest of them are just kind of out there hanging out. I don't think that that's beneficial. I do appreciate the super chat though, Dan. So thank you very much as always. Final thing we got to get to before we get out of here and wrap up this stream. Let's get to our grades of the game.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You want answers? I want answers. I want answers. What the hell happened to put the 4th line out there against Nikita Kucherov and Brayden Point in the second period? But I also want grades, and I want to know how you guys feel about tonight's game from a grade perspective. Whatever you've got, drop them in the chat there. I want to hear it. I want to see it. I want to know what you're thinking, how you're feeling. whatever. Just let it go. Let it fly. You guys free reign. I'm never going to tell you you're wrong on these. I'm just going to give you my opinion and we'll bounce back and forth on some of it. Let's try to... man, I was just going to say let's try to be positive. I mean, what am I, like, going to lie to you guys? This is like a D, maybe D- game. Like D. D's the final answer. D's the final answer. You played good in the first 20, and then it was like stupid coaching decision. Brody and Timmins not good. Wall not good. Power play 1 for 4. I'm glad that they were able to get on the board. Your penalty kill, I will give them kudos. You went 3 for 3 here tonight against Tampa, so good on you. That's a really good power play with, again, a guy who's competing for the Art Ross and the Hart Trophy. In terms of the fight, you won that. Happy with that. Great for Reeves. Like, pummeled the hell out of Tanner Jeannot. There's not much else, you know. I think the first line played well. The second line was maybe not a net negative, but they felt rather invisible, like they made no impact on this game here tonight. The fourth line was good, but actually no, don't even let me go down that path. I'm not going to nitpick on the fourth line. They were pretty good here tonight. I think that they won their fourth line battle. The third line, no, not for me tonight. I know we talked about, could you keep the third line? Could you keep the kid line together? The answer is no. Can't do it. I cannot do it. I don't have Nick Robertson in this lineup come game 1 of the playoffs. He doesn't bring enough jam. He doesn't make enough of an impact on the game. He doesn't make enough impact shift by shift. There's so much missing from his game if he's not scoring. Excuse me. There's so much missing from his game if he's not scoring, and he's not scoring tonight. And I felt like there was times where I'm like, is this guy even playing? And then there was times I was watching him and it was like turnover, or maybe not necessarily like turnover, but you could have made a play on that and you didn't. Or you could have made a play on that battle or won that battle and you didn't. And those are the ones that kind of kill me with him. Like it's, you know, he's walking away from this game with 0 giveaways technically on the board. But if you watch what happens, it just feels like there's opportunities for the team to get the puck that he just doesn't get it. And those feel like losses or feel like giveaways. Even if they don't show up on the stat sheet that way, it's just like, well, you could have and you didn't. Those are tough. D, man. Billy T saying, wow, Zack harsher than the chat average. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a little bit surprised that I am, because I thought you guys were going to be as pissed off, or maybe like harsh on it. I didn't even think I was really being that harsh. I kind of felt pretty fair. Like I've gone some games here where I'm above the average. I've gone a couple here where I'm mostly just right at it. I didn't think D was going to be that much further below. Everyone kind of seemed to slot in the C+, C+ range. I'm going D. D's the grade for me. All right. That's going to do it for tonight's show. I do appreciate everyone. Final results in the poll here. Do you keep Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi together when Marner returns? 56%. Yes, absolutely. 23%. Start like that, but short leash. And 21%. Nope, put Marner back. All right, well, there you go. Majority of people are saying keep them together, and then even the people who are saying, like, maybe you don't keep them together are saying start them together, but be prepared to move away. And I think that that's fair. That brings us to, like, 79% on the people who voted, or the percentage of people who voted for that one. So that's fair. That's fair. The other thing, want to remind people, we'll end the poll there. The other thing I want to remind people, if you haven't already, pinned at the top of the chat, I will send it in here again to people who want to see or who want to head on over there. If you haven't, Merch Madness is on right now. There's a sale going on in the Nation Gear store. You guys want to see it. Like 20% off sale that's currently going on right now. If you see me wearing this gear, look how nice this looks. Look how clean it is. The LeafsNation.com. You can find all of the merch over there. T-shirts, hoodies, hats. It's all there. You look good. You feel good. You will play good. April 1st to April 7th. Make sure to get it before it's out, before it's done. 20% off Merch Madness. The link is in the chat, and it's also pinned at the top. So thank you to everyone who tuned in here tonight. That's going to do it for me for tonight's stream. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the subscriptions, the super chats, the likes, the follows, comments, everyone who participated. Thank you very much. Thanks to our friend Alex for calling into the stream tonight. I'm out of here. I'll be back on Saturday after the game against the Montreal Canadiens, but you guys can also find me on some of the game previews that come out before the games. This has been game number 75 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning here tonight, 43, 23, 23, and 9 on the year. That's all. Keep Leafs.